Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to do the first installment of upgrades on the Axial CJ7, so stay tuned. Alright, we have the Jeep, we have some upgrades, we've got some shock oil, let's make it happen. First thing we're going to do is we have looked into the clipless body system. We have not pulled the trigger on that yet. Unfortunately, we got distracted and we didn't really remember to get back to it. So we're going to take, there's an acorn tree outside, and when the acorns hit the metal building, they make a really obnoxious sound. So first things first, we're going to take the body off. Do note that we have a light bar on top, because when we were at Disney for Crawlapalooza, we did a night run with it. And don't mind the batteries being in here, you know. It is what it is. I think this is a Injora light bar. It's extremely bright. It's a 6-inch light bar. It did not actually fit. The mounts didn't fit on the top. I did make it fit, so we will be fixing that in a future video. We don't actually need these side mounts, so I'm going to take this off in the video today. We are getting light pods though. We're getting some light pods for it that'll come in a future video because we haven't received those yet. And one of the other really cool things that we got is we got some ducks. We will be putting ducks on the dash, at least one, as part of this video because it's a Jeep. Really, it's a Wrangler. The Wrangler is the only duck-worthy Jeep, and maybe the Gladiator. I've never had my XJ duck. We're officially members of the Duck Club, I guess, with this truck. Anyway, a couple of notes on the truck so far. It has been really fun to drive. The dig is, it's interesting to say the least. It works half the time, and when it does work, it works, and most of the time it doesn't disengage, so you have to go into reverse to disengage it. And it's not a ton of fun. That's neither here nor there. The first thing we're going to do on this thing is we're going to take the shocks off, or one of the shocks, and we're going to update the fluid. I'm not going to do this to all four on video because I don't want to bore you to death. So we'll do the front right shock real quick. There are 2 screws to take the shock out. Typically, I would take the wheel off to do this, but this wheel these wheels are extremely painful to take off. So we're going to do it without taking the wheel off. Just note that in order to take the shocks off, there's 2 screws, and they are 2mm screws. So you will need a 2mm driver, such as this MIP. I would highly recommend the MIP drivers. They are the best that I've used personally. So we did get the shock off. We have a long screw for the top. Oh. Note to self, don't drop the shocks. So there is a longer screw for the top and a shorter screw for the bottom. That is evident by the spacer in the top. Now, I don't think these actually came with oil. And with the weight of this chassis, the oil that came in there was not adequate. So there is, much to my surprise, oil in it. So we're going to dump this oil, and we're going to put this 100 weight low C shock oil in it. 100 weight might be a little excessive. That's what we're going to start with because this truck is fairly heavy in terms of sprung weight, and we're going to add more weight to the sprung side. So before we go and change the suspension, we want to test if these shocks will be good enough with some thicker oil, because that's really what we're trying to eliminate, is the bouncy ride. I think the springs are good. The oil weight might be a little less than adequate. So we're going to dump the oil. Oil has been dumped. There was not a ton of oil in there. Of course, the shock housing isn't that big anyway. I would highly suggest these blue shop rags for doing any type of oil or suspension work on your stuff, because, and just like that, wow, that was full fast, because they are very absorbing. So they will absorb the oil and clean up your mess like I've made. Now this shock oil is a lot thicker than the stuff that was in there. There's really not a lot that goes in it. The shock cap does have a bladder in it, so we are going to compress the shock and then stick it in there or screw it on, if that makes sense. This would be much easier without the spring on there, but we like to do things the hard way, apparently. So we're going to screw this back on here as it's compressed. Did get a little outside of the shock, so we're going to clean that off. Shock does appear to leak a little bit, but I'm not sure I've run into any shocks that don't. So that makes a bit of a difference. I'm not sure that that's enough of a difference. It might actually not be. So we will fill the rest of the shocks with this heavier oil and we'll see what it does. It's definitely better than what's in there. So I'll fill all of them real quick and we'll be right back. All 4 shocks are done. I don't know that this oil is going to be heavy enough. It does make a little bit of a difference, but we might need some thicker oil or some different shocks. The piston, I think, is too small inside the cylinder to really take advantage of the heavier weight oil. So we're probably going to need some thicker oil to make it better. It is a lot better in terms of bounciness, or really the ease of which you can move it side to side, but I don't think it's perfect. So we have a remediation for that in the next video. We're not going to do that in this one. We might try some thicker oil first. So we'll report back in the next video and let you know. So the next thing we have going on here, we did get a package today from Scalar Fab. As you can see, it's dusty because we live in BFE. Let's go ahead and open this real quick and see what's in here. Scalar Fab is a US based company, so shout out to them. Support them if you can. They are in Springfield, Missouri. They do have a 10 to 14 day lead time, so if you order from them, just know that it's going to take a couple of weeks, which is completely fine as long as they provide that order within the 10 to 15 days. And I will tell you that I did receive it between the 10 to 14 day mark, so huge shout out to them. We got a sticker. Everything is wrapped in this bubble wrap. First thing we have in the box is going to be, the sliders. So we did get some new sliders for it. They will replace these plastic ones. So we do have the drill. Those are indeed like the shocks, 2mm. These are actually quite intricate, but we don't need those any longer. Before we put it on there, the welds look okay. They're not going to win any beauty contests by any means, but it will get the job done. This does appear to be tigged and not brazed. So that is a plus. Let's slide the body on real quick Lost our duck to see what this looks like. This body irritates me every time I go to put it on. It is the biggest pain in the reason it is because of these wheel wells, which is something I really like, but I have a love-hate relationship with them because they're such a pain in the, again, to put on. Full lift off in the front, full lift off in the back, and what I mean by that is we have full seating of the body mounts. These are going to look really good. We're going to slide this into position and let's screw it in. Be very cautious when screwing into plastic because plastic will strip and you don't want that to happen. So I typically go until the drill kind of resists and then I'll use a screwdriver to screw it in the rest of the way. Very, very simple. As you can see, there's only 2 screws that hold these sliders on, or really 2 screws that hold the stock sliders on, which in turn hold these on, but they look good. Look at that. They look really good. Let's look at it together here. Oh yeah, those look fantastic. I think they probably could have set the front here back just a touch, because if you want to run big tires or 5.25 tires, you're not going to. And I'm kind of concerned that this tire is going to eat into that. It's going to touch it for sure, but it should be all right. If anything, we'll just take our Dremel and we'll grind this down a touch. I would actually like these sliders to sit up some. So this slider is actually touched up a lot more than this one. This one is not brushed off with a wire brush, and you can see that that one is. Let's try this side and see what it looks like. Not what I had pictured 100%, but like I said, they should get the job done. There you have it, folks. The sliders. I think we might paint those black. I'm not sure yet. Sliders done. We have 2 more things in the box. The next thing that we're going to take out of the box is, it's like Christmas time, the front bumper. This does not have the stinger. It has the trail. I believe that's what it is, the trail something or other. It does have a place for a winch, a scale winch, which is what we're going to get. We haven't received it yet, but it is coming, a scale worn winch that we're going to put up here. It does look like there are 2 screws that hold the front bumper on. Oh, it's got these little notches in the bumper, keeping it in the chassis. Ouch, that was painful. So the bumper just slides up into place like such, and then should just screw in. So we do have a problem. I don't know what mounts these are. I think they're shackle mounts, and I didn't know that that's where they were going to put them, or I would not have added them to the order. So the shackle mounts are preventing the bumper from sitting all the way up, which is preventing which will prevent the body from going down. We're gonna have to trim the bottom part of the C chassis, and we're gonna do that right now. All right, so we got the front bumper to fit. As you can see, what we end up having to do is, if you order the front bumper with the shackle mounts like I did, I assumed the shackle mounts were gonna be in the front. I guess that's what I get for assuming. They're not, they're on the bottom. So you do have to notch the frame just a touch, only where it's angled out. If you notch it flush with the top part of the frame with a Dremel or something of the sort. I just use a Dremel with a cutoff wheel, cut it in to the flat part, and then cut it off. And it fits. We are able to fit it in there, and it looks good. So let's get it screwed back in place here. I think the bumper is going to require some nuts, some longer screws, and some nuts on the other side because the metal piece isn't threaded and the plastic piece is. Easy install. Let's see what we have in the box, or what's left in the box. I'm sure you can guess what it is. It is the rear bumper. Interestingly enough, I did get the spare tire edition, and I didn't know that it was going to be that little tiny thing there. I'm not sure how exactly we're going to mount a tire to that yet. I'll probably have to design something and print it out. The overall build quality of all the parts is okay. It looks like this rear bumper was actually welded with a MIG instead of a TIG. 2 screws later, the rear bumper comes out. It does have shackles built into the back. I kind of like that. It's also got a license plate. I might actually unscrew this license plate frame because it does look like it's screwed in, and put some holes in this bumper for the license plate on one side or the other. I did also get the receiver built in. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet, but we'll figure that out when the time comes. The bumper should slide into the chassis like the front bumper does. However, it does not do that. It's supposed to go on the outside. The reason I assume that it needs to go on the outside is because it still uses the stock mounting screws. The rear bumper is just screwed into the bumper bar that goes between the chassis, which is, I assume, why that the bumper goes on the outside. The new metal one goes on the outside to keep these screw locations, which is completely fine. The only issue with that is these fender liners are in the way of moving this past that specific part. I would have much preferred to have the bumper, and it does have the shackle mounts on it as well. I would have much preferred to have the bumper go in the chassis rails, much like the front bumper did, but it is what it is. Now we're going to have to figure out where exactly this bumper was. I believe that is really close. We could probably drill some holes and put the license plate in the back here somewhere. You know, something like that, or maybe down here like this. I'm not sure yet. Let's test fit the body and see what that looks like. Immediately notice the rear is a touch too close, so we're gonna readjust that. And it's still a little too close for comfort, I think, because as you can see, it is rubbing on the back. The issue is not actually the location of the bumper. The bumper location was fine. The issue is that this bar right here is too close to the bars where the Jeep body sits. It's essentially causing it to rub. So it doesn't matter if the bumper was on there or not. If I took the bumper off and tried to place it on here, it's not gonna work. So I did pay extra for this tire carrier, but I think I'm just gonna have to cut it off, unfortunately. So it is what it is. Just know that if you order Scalar Fab bumpers, do not get the rear tire carrier because first of all, it looks like this, and second of all, it's actually too close to the mounting points for the body. And just like that, we fixed it. No more tire carrier, and the bumpers are pretty much mounted in the location that I want them. These fender wells are fantastic, but man, they are a pain to get in the appropriate location. Overall, it looks pretty good. I am going to paint the metal pieces. There we go. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There is the front bumper, the rock sliders, and the rear bumper. So you can't even tell that I cut that piece off the rear bumper, as you can see, because it was way too far in. We were able to fix that situation. Unfortunately, we did pay extra for the tire carrier, but that's fine. We don't need it. Just to kind of show you what the light bar, it is an Injora light bar. I believe it is 6 inches, and it works really well. Apparently, I lost the mirror / light pod holder for this side, so I'm gonna have to order another one from A-Main. But in the meantime, we can take it for a test drive to see how good this stuff looks. I can tell you that the shock oil is definitely a lot better. I guess we'll see how much better. We obviously don't need the light bar, but I think it's a cool touch, so we're definitely going to leave it on. This thing just looks so good. There's a tree in the way. Oh, there's a hole there. We got it. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. For the first round of upgrades, we did some awesome things. We added the wheels and tires. We added the light bar. We added the duck. We added the bumpers and the sliders. And then finally, we added the 100-weight oil to the stock shocks. I will probably replace these shocks because they're still not quite what I'm looking for. But I wanted to show that there is an alternative. You don't have to buy different shocks. You can put some 100-weight oil in these shocks, and I would probably even step it up to 120 or 140-weight oil because of it still has a little bit of rockiness in it, but not much. So driving it, as you can see, it looks really good. It looks a lot more planted. It's not all bouncy and all over the place. It is an enjoyable experience. So overall, I'm really happy how it turned out. Unfortunately, the rear bumper from Scalar Fab just didn't work out for us with that spare tire carrier, if you will. The rest of the items from Scalar Fab turned out fantastic. So I would recommend purchasing from them, just know that if you do buy the spare tire carrier for the rear, it's just not something that I would do personally. I will leave a link to everything I've done to the Jeep so far in the description below, so that way you can do or mimic what I'm building here. Huge shout out to all of you that's made it this far. Your support really keeps the channel going. Throw us a like if you think the video was awesome. Huge shout out to the TABO club members, and as always, we hope you have a great day.